Welcome to another exciting episode of Spellbound. I am your host, 32bits, and I am extremely excited today to talk to you about this card right here. This is the TF360. That's right, it's a 68060 processor upgrade card for the Amiga CD32. Let's take a look. Now, this particular card is a alpha, which means that it's not a beta, it's an alpha, meaning this card is still in development. Stephen Terrible Fire Leary is in the midst of developing this card for the CD32, and there were a handful of prototype cards made. This one was made by Cpuspeed. We've got two CPLDs, we've got 64 megs of RAM, fast IED. There is a ESP826 header on there for Wi-Fi. We've got the JTAG for reprogramming. It's labeled a NOT port. It's a clock port. We've got a 3-pin 5-volt fan header, and of course the star of the show, the 68060 socket. This card is meant to slot into a riser card via the edge connector here, like most of these cards do. So we're going to need a few things to get this card up and running. This is a compact flash to ID adapter with the cable. I've gone ahead and shortened that. I'm going to need a compact flash card, a riser. This is a Kipper 2K riser. These are a couple options. We've got the real-time clock module. We need a battery for that, and the ESP8266 Wi-Fi module. This is the same one we used in the TF330 to get us online. And of course, you're going to need a 68060 processor. These are getting about as easy to find as hen's teeth. This is supposed to be in a Rev 6, so we're going to take a look and see what we can do with that. So now we have all the components here. Let's get it put together so we can slot it into our CD32. We'll go ahead and install the compact flash. Move the protective foam from the CPU. And then here's a tip for you here. There's a pin missing in the one corner, and that corresponds to this spot here on the socket where you can line that up. There's no pin receiver there, and there's no pin there. So that lines up there. You line it up. Check that all the pins are aligned. We're going to apply even medium pressure in the middle until the thing starts seating. It starts pushing in. Then we're going to go to one side, push it in a little bit, the other side, and then back to that side there. Get it all seated in, make sure it's all in. And we'll go ahead and install the Wi-Fi module, and then the ID connector for the compact flash, and we'll slot it into the riser. I like slotting into the riser first and then installing it. Now, this particular card came with these two small heat sinks on the CPLDs, and they were adequate, I'm sure, to do the job. But I'm going to see if I can't clock this thing. So I want to upgrade those. So I put these two a little bit beefier heat sinks on here. We do have a fan header here, so I'm going to put some fans on these. And also I wanted to get active cooling on the CPU. So I want this Sunon kind of all-in-one heatsink fan unit, and it is a Sunon, a super what's it called? Super narrow CPU cooler. And the two CPLD fans are made up of one. I've taken one of these Raspberry Pi dual fan units with the heatsink, and I'm going ahead and cut that in half, so I end up with two. So this is the setup here, and then once I've kind of put them together, divided that one, and then attached them to a wiring harness here so they can all be plugged into the one header. This is what it looks like. So let's get this attached to the card and plugged in so we can slot this bad boy into the CD32 and get some 68060 goodness going. We'll just screw these in. The heat sinks were previously attached with thermal conductive tape. And the main CPU cooler on there, and we'll just hook it up to the header. Now it's ready to insert into the CD32 expansion slot. Now I could fit this in with the top on, but I chose to leave it off because I'm doing all this testing. So I'll just slot that in there, and I'll put the keyboard connector on the back and the RGB connector on the back there, so we can get video out, obviously. And just to show you that you can close the case on this, and it fits perfectly inside that expansion bay there. There's even room for the the compact flash adapter. It fits towards the front, but that card, along with all those fans and the heat sinks and things, sits right beautifully in that spot. And just got a lot of the vents on the top, so there's plenty of cooling there. But for our testing, we're going to go ahead and just flip it up, just so we can look at those beautiful fans spin. Now you're going to hear some noise. That Sunon fan's got a bad bearing in it, so I've ordered a replacement. It's not normally that loud. The Raspberry Pi fans are actually really quiet, and the Sunon fan, once it kicks in, it starts going a little bit, it quiets down. But when in startup, it's loud. So I'm going to go ahead and, like I said, I have a fan on order. And here's our desktop. And I'm just going to zoom in so we can see it a little better here. I'm going to run which Amiga so that we can we can verify that we've got that beautiful 68060 running in there. You'll see it here. I'll see if I can zoom in. I don't know how well you can see that. Let's zoom in. Just pan up there, yeah. So that's we can see we're running a 68060, 50 megahertz. This is Rev 6 with FPU and MMU running, and it is correctly identified as the Amiga CD32. I don't know if you can tell, but I'm pretty excited. You know, I never thought I'd be able to get an 060 in my CD32. It's maybe with some kind of external box or something, but this is all beautifully fitting inside. We'll run sysinfo, and again, it's going to verify that we've got that 060 in there. With the FPU and MMU in use. Just go ahead and run the speed test and see what we get. Now, if you remember on the TF330, we got, I think, 9 MIPS. So we're looking to see how much better this card's going to be. I imagine it's got to be, a fair bit better. Oh yeah, we're looking at 39.24 MIPS. That's pretty astounding for a CD32. That's wow. We're looking at 2 times the speed of a 25 megahertz 040 A4000. That's pretty impressive. Now, that is pretty impressive, and that's at the stock 50 megahertz speed. Now, Steven included a couple of tools with this card. One of them is this. It's called Cpuspeed, and it allows you to adjust the speed of the processor upwards. And it's a command line tool, and I wrote a couple, really just one-liner commands to invoke that, and I tied them to these icons because I just like a little bit of a GUI. That's just, I thought it was cool. So I've gone ahead and, so if you click one of these icons, you double-click them, it'll set it to the speed that's listed there. That one's 50, that one's 62. That's the next speed up, so we'll go ahead and run that. And, well, let me zoom back out so you can see what actually happens there. I double-click that, it runs, the command. It's setting it to 62, and we'll see what we get here. We're on which Amiga, and you can see it's reporting 63 megahertz. All right, there we go. So let's go ahead and run sysinfo and see how much faster of speed we're going to get at the 62 versus the 50 megahertz on the 060 card. .49. Wow, that's pretty impressive. That's a full 10 MIPS higher, and we're looking at a full 2.5 times faster than a 25 megahertz 040 A4000. That's pretty impressive. This is all inside of an Amiga CD32. Okay, let's bump it up a notch a little bit more. We're going to go to 75 megahertz. See, it's running that there, and then we'll run which Amiga just to verify our speed change. It's at 75.7 megahertz there. Let's run sysinfo just to check the speed and see what we've got now. 75 megahertz. We got a whopping 58.91, just shy of 59 MIPS, and a full 3 times faster than a 25 megahertz 040 A4000. Again, I know this is sysinfo, and people are gonna complain that it's not very accurate, but it is kind of the tool that we have, right? And also, because it's the same tool that I use to benchmark the TF330, I think using it to benchmark the TF360 has some value, as a comparison. So the tool that Steven provides with the card is called Cpuspeed, one of the tools, and it allows you to. It's a command line tool that allows you to set the CPU for different speeds. I've programmed these 4 icons to launch that command in set increments: 50, 62, 75, and here I'm going to run it at 100, and we'll see what we do. We had just run it at 75. Everything was good. Now there's a problem already because the mouse is mouse is not responding and the system is rebooting out. So the hard drive, the drive light is blinking, and it looks like it's just gonna reboot. Should see a workbench here. Okay, good. I didn't have to recycle power. It just rebooted. And I can tell you that the 3 components that are on there that were getting warm, the CPLDs and the CPU. The CPU barely got warm, even running it at 75 megahertz all day. Like I said, it just got warm. And the 2 CPLDs, one of them got, I would call it, borderline hot. The other one just got warm or real warm. But with the active cooling that I have on there with the heat sinks and the fans, none of those components, I would even say, get warm. They're just above room temperature. They're not even warm barely. So I don't believe it's a heat issue that's preventing me from going to above 75 megahertz. It could be just the limitation of that chip. Now that being said, there are increments that I could probably try between 75 and 100. Maybe the chip will do 80, maybe it'll do 85, maybe it'll do 90, maybe it'll do 95. I jumped right from 75 to 100. And I can try different different increments running the tool from the command line. I just happen to set it with those icons, at those increments. So I'll work on that, on another video. I'll do a follow up in my next video to see if I can get any more speed out of it. But again, it just might be a limitation of this chip. And I must say, at 75 megahertz, an 060 in my CD32, which is something I never thought I'd see. I am not complaining at all. It is absolutely amazing to have this card fit inside the CD32, inside the expansion slot, with the CPU and the CPLDs, the way where they're positioned, and with the fans, they're right above right underneath the grill there. So there's a lot of nice air movement through there. So I can run it with the case closed all day at 75 megahertz, and they stay completely cool. It's great. And again, the thing has been rock stable. This is a card that's in development. This is a development version of this card. It's a pre-production version. So this isn't the final version of this card. This particular card only has 64 megs of RAM. I'm not sure if that's going to ship with more or not. I believe he's talking about at least 128 megs of RAM. But currently I haven't found anything that I needed. And I'm making air quotes here that you can't see. More than 64 megs of RAM for. But of course, always, more is always better, right? So that's going to be it for this video. I'm going to be wrapping it up. I'm going to let this beautiful demo run in the background there, and would like to say a few things. First of all, I'd like to say thank you to all the people who inquired about me and inquired about my health. I am fine. Thank you very much. I really appreciate the concern, but I am perfectly fine. It's just that during this the time that we find ourselves in, and the work that I do, I have just had to be really busy. So that's it. I'm fine. I've just been busy. Thank you for asking. That being said, I'm gonna, hopefully this will be the first in a few-part series of taking a look at this card. Again, this is a pre-production card, but I'm gonna want to compare it to the TF360 and see how it compares. So if you like this video, please like, share, subscribe, and as always, be safe, my friends.